proves President Bush has no power anymore. Some people say it proves that our political system is broken because we can't address an issue like this. Either one of them right?
No, it's not the president's bill, as Mr. Reed said. It was the bill of some bipartisan group who met in secret, part of the problem. This was...
The president did sign on to it.
He did sign on to it, but this, the legislation had some of the problems of Hillary's health care plan in 1993 and 94. It was done in secret. No hearings to answer basic questions such as, is immigration good for the economy or not? Huge factual question about which there were vastly different views. Second, it was comprehensive, as in her comprehensive health care plan. And the argument was, untune this string, pull that thread, and the whole thing falls apart. So it became almost take it or leave it.
So defeat is the system working?
The system is working in the sense that the Senate is designed for defense, the House for offense. The system that the Founding Fathers designed is full of checks and balances, but name me one thing the American people have wanted intensely and protractedly they didn't get. There's not a consensus yet, and the government...
I would argue universal health care may be one, but that's a debate for another day. But
no, I'm always shocked when George is more optimistic than I am. I think this is just so obvious. This is such a failure of Washington to get anything done. You had Republicans, you had Democrats, you had the president in the White House. They could not get this legislation through. And so in the short run, it just fuels the cynicism that people have about this town and its inability to do anything significant. Not doing something is not succeeding at anything. And in the long run, these presidential candidates in the Senate are going to be going, oh my God, what can I do to get out of this? It's going to make it much easier for those candidates who are running, who are not from Washington, to say, look, those guys can't get anything done. I'm the one who can fix things.
Yet, Claire, I mean, some people would say Tory's argument is elitist. Those who are trying to kill this bill saying, wait a second, we don't want Washington to foist this on us. Illegal immigration is a real problem in our districts. We want to take care of it.
Right, and it's not clear what part of the public really wanted to get something done or how this will play. But
so there was a broad majority.
Exactly, but I mean, the vociferous minority, I think, was having more of an impact at this point. And I think the shame is that it wasn't necessarily the president's bill, but to get something like this passed, you need the president. And I think what is ultimately an irony or a tragedy, depending on how you look at it, is this was the president's moment. He was the president to do it. It was almost could have been his Nixon and China moment. He's very sincere when he talks about this issue. You needed a Republican president to do it, but he needed a Democratic House and Senate at the same time. This was the perfect moment, but he just does not have the political capital.
And they weren't eager. And Jay, in those final days leading up to the vote, White House aides were pretty open about it. They said the president can't make calls because no one in his party is going to listen to him.
Nobody's taking those calls, right. His weakness is profound, and in some ways you could say that this was the end of his domestic presidency, assuming that this immigration reform bill is truly dead. I remember in 1999, and those of us who were out on the trail would probably remember this too, traveling with then Governor Bush to all-white, sometimes country club audiences, and hearing him, Republican audiences, hearing him say, family values don't stop at the Rio Grande. And there was silence.
His heart was always in this.
Silence in the room. And so he really, and this was part of the grand Karl Rove strategy, too, that as running for governor and being governor, he embraced immigration and immigrants and Latinos and wanted their votes. And part of expanding the Republican Party nationally was to expand the Latino vote for the Republican Party. And so there was a political edge to this as well as a sincere policy edge, and it's all come undone.
When I was speaking with Senator McCain off camera, we talked about this particular point, and he said that his party just doesn't get it. And he gave some figures. He said Maricopa County, Arizona, Hispanics are registering to vote 6-1 now Democrat.
No, there's no question. There's a long-term demographic bomb about to explode. How that affects the two parties in the short term, in the next 2 or 3 election cycles, is another matter. We're learning here an old lesson with a new twist. The old lesson is that democracy is not about counting noses. It's also about intensity. And the new twist is that new technologies give that intensity a special saliency. The blogosphere, the internet generally, talk radio, all the rest. So intensity matters.
It's very influential in this debate.
So is the bill dead for good?
I think so.
I think it's dead for this presidency.
I disagree.
Well,
Senator Reed, I have never...
This is new.
And don't call him that.
Sorry, fighting words.
Senator Reed took this down. He said because they were out of time. That was Thursday night. Friday, they disappeared. They didn't work on Friday. They're coming back to the urgent business of a non-binding resolution on disapproving of Alberto Gonzales that will not probably come to a vote. It was taken down disingenuously. Given time, the Republicans can pare down the number of amendments they want to 5 or 6.
But where's the pressure going to
Here's the problem. With more time, Harry Reid knows he's going to get a bill that he likes even less, and he's not eager to get that done. And that's why going back to your original point, this was a very fragile compromise. If it moves more in the direction to pick up these conservative Republican votes, the Democrats are going to be enraged, and they don't want to be in that box.
Right.
And it fails.
Tough, right?
So George is saying it might come back, but it won't pass and it won't be signed into law.
It's got to get to that. I mean, the House is where the real problem is.
Exactly.
Because the whole point in the House is you have 61 Democrats from districts Bush carried. They don't want to cast difficult votes. That's why Nancy Pelosi says to pass this, you need to give us 70 Republicans, and they won't get them.
I want to pick up on Tori's earlier point. Does this open the way for an outside Washington, maybe even an independent candidate, to come in and say that they can get the job done? I was talking to a Mike Bloomberg aide who said there is now a 4-part test for Bloomberg to get into the race after the nominees are chosen next February. He says, number one, 70% of the country thinks we're going in the wrong direction. We're there right now. Number two, both candidates have unfavorables in the 40s. We're there now. 3, 60% is open to a third party. And 4, 20 to 25% are open to Mike Bloomberg. And if those 4 tests are met, this person says Bloomberg is in. Will there be an opening for him?
I think there's definitely an opening for him. I don't know if it's as an independent. I think that's very tough. I think the biggest challenge for anybody who's not currently a first or second tier candidate right now is money. He does not have that problem. I heard from a very credible source that about a year or so ago, Bloomberg, just to a handful of people sitting around him, said, well, how much would it cost to run for president successfully anyhow? And someone said, what do you mean? How much would it cost? And somebody throws out $500 million. And he just went, oh, okay.
I can handle that.
No, they're talking $1 billion now. And imagine having $1 billion and not noticing that when it's gone.
$1 billion is a lot of TV.
It's a lot of TV. Here's the thing. Bloomberg, I would say, unlike Ross Perot, is not a romantic. And he would do this in order to win it. It is highly unlikely in our system that, I mean, Ross Perot did phenomenally well in 1992 and got 20% of the vote. It's a third-party candidate,
17%,
which is
painfully taken from many.
It was 19, actually.
19, right. It's just, he can't run in either party. He has to run as an independent, and he won't win the election.
Successful third-party candidates have 2 things in common. The successful ones all lose. Second, they get some of them every once in a while get an electoral vote.
Right.
It's because they have 3 things: a regional base, a burning issue, and a vivid personality. George Wallace. George Wallace had all 3, and he got some electoral votes. The most that Bloomberg could do, let's say he carried New York and California. He throws it into the House of Representatives. That would be a stunning success. He throws it in. He loses. He throws it into the House of Representatives, and they pick a Republican or a Democrat.
I mean, I think that's right. I think you can see him getting 20 or 25% of the vote nationally and not getting 35% in 20 states, what you would need.